everybody looks at America and say, are we Rome? And if you're conservatives, you usually say, well, the inflation is destroying our currency like it did with Rome. And tribalism is destroying us because, like Rome, we have lost the ability to unite people under a common language, common tradition, common culture, and expand from the idea that what was once largely an Anglo-Saxon population, then a pan-European population, then an Eastern European, then an Asian, along with the descendants of slaves, and then a Latin American population. We could keep reinventing America. We were losing that ability with tribal politics, wokeness, this new idea that to cure racism, you must be racist, or to stop discrimination, you must practice discrimination. That was a symptom of Roman decline along with inflation. Another idea was that we're dealing with is very similar to Rome, is that once you have a republican government, you forget that there were certain conditions that created it. There was a certain familiar place, there were certain familiar boundaries, there were certain familiar affinities. And when you expand that to Gaul, Hispania, Britannia, Germanic, parts of southern Germania, Dalmatia, Arabia, Judea, then you have to say to yourself, the Italian paradigm will work all over the world for people who don't speak Italian, have never been to Italy, will never go to Italy, but the mindset will be the same. And it works if you work at it. If you teach people Latin all the time, and you make sure that all the architecture at Leptis Magna in Libya or in Iraq looks like it does in Italy, or everybody's on the same page with Roman law. But when you don't do that, and you say that that's unfair, or who you to put your values on other people, then it doesn't work. And so when we look at Rome, and I should say that there, scholars have noticed there's over 220 official published explanation for why Rome fell. But when we do look at Rome, I think you can see some affinities we all agree on. That the dollar is worth less and less each year. And we are printing money not on the basis of increased population and productivity, but just to print it. And that's a means of radical redistribution. That the debt that we're leaving to our children, each generation gets larger and larger. That people increasingly do not look like each other, which is okay, but increasingly they say to themselves that how I look is essential to who I am, and it's not incidental. And that's a pathway to destruction, as Rome learned with its own problems with tribalism. And then finally, I think this is very important, a nation has to have civic education. They have to know what the Constitution is, they have to know what the First Amendment is, they have to know what the Second Amendment is, they have to have some idea who the people were that died at Shiloh, what Okinawa was about, who died on a B-17 and why, who Andrew Jackson was, who Lincoln was, who Harriet Tubman was. We seem to know a lot about Harriet Tubman, but nobody knows who William Tecumseh Sherman was. So if you don't have models of your past, then you're not going to have any connection with it, and you're going to forget it, and you're going to make up the past as you go along. Or Orwell says, he who controls the present can reinvent the past to make a new future. And that's what we're doing in this country. A country also has to have humility. You can't use the standards of the present and go back and say, look at those guys in covered wagons. They said racist things, and therefore we're not going to study them, or the Oregon Trail should be not mentioned. Before you can do that, you have to say to yourself, if I have 5 children and 2 of them die on the Oregon Trail because they don't have antibiotics or they have diphtheria, or I have 2,600 vision, but I can't get glasses and I can't see, or I don't know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow, I have no satellite. Or if I want a family of 5, my wife at 15 is going to have to be pregnant about 15 times because I know 5 births are not going to come to full term. Another 3 or 4, the child is going to be lost during childbirth. Another 2 or 3 are going to die from childhood diseases. Then she's not going to be emancipated because she's going to be pregnant from 15 to 40. And I'm not going to have any leisure time because I'm going to be trying to homestead a farm from 6 in the morning. But we've forgotten all that. So we have all these leisured creatures in the university that says, I judge this person racist, this person is sexist, this luminary is no good because they don't fit my standards of iPhones and vacuum cleaners and jet travel. And it's absolutely absurd. They have no idea, this generation, what the future is going to say to us. They could very well say, you and your scientific arrogance allowed 1 million fetuses that were viable children to be aborted in a single year. They may say that. Or they may say, wow, you guys went back to tribalism and started picking and choosing jobs and admissions by the color of people's skin. How reactionary was that? Every generation's got to be humble.